Hi, I'm Stephen from PianoWorks Gallery and Clocks. Today is another episode of You Ask and We Answer. Today's question is, can an electronic keyboard replace an acoustic piano for a piano student? So the answer is a little bit complicated, but we're going to simplify it as much as we can in as short amount of time as possible. An electronic keyboard is made to add weight to the keys to mimic the way a piano action feels. For example, I have some actions in front of me. This is a grand piano action, and you'll notice that the key out here at the end is long. Most people don't know that a piano key is this long. Normally we just see the white part at the end. It's also a teeter-totter, so it has a balance point in the middle where the parts move, and that's very important for how the piano feels. This mechanism here, all of these parts, including this part here, is the weight that a piano action lifts when the key is pushed. So you'll see that this is going up and down. As the key is pushed down, this part goes up on the teeter-totter. So this part here is the weight that a weighted electronic keyboard is trying to mimic. However, there is more to the weight than just an individual weight that the key lifts. There are many components that go in to making a piano action. So all electronic keyboards come in various levels. Many that are available at big box stores would not qualify at all. They have problems with them that cannot mimic a grand piano or a vertical piano's action. However, all manufacturers, this one is a Kawai model, but Yamaha, Roland, any other manufacturer that produces a beginning line weighted keyboard does exactly the same thing. This model is exactly what you get on any one of those different brands. We'll show this Kawai here. So for example, this is something from like a KDP 120 on a Kawai. Again, we have the white key, but you'll notice there's no balance point, so there's no pivot point in the middle of this. The key is just attached to a hinge here, or a flange, and when the key is pushed down, then in the back of the key on below, we notice that the key is pulling up some weight, just some piece of metal that is the weight of a keyboard. And over here on this side is the sensor for the keyboard. It's kind of hard to see in there, but when the key pushes down, it engages the sensor. The sensor is able to tell the speed at which the key is being pushed down, so dynamics have some possibility here. But the main thing is that all of these keyboards are very simple, generally fairly inexpensive to get into. KDP 120 is around $1,400 to start. However, this weight, if you'll notice, is on the bottom of the key. And so when we are pushing this key down as a pianist, we're lifting this weight from below. Now, when we look at the example in the grand piano action, or even in the upright action, when the key is pushed, the weight is being pulled or pushed up, right? The key is pushed down and it lifts the action from above, not from below. This is very significant because this is where the teeter-totter comes in and where the feel of a real piano comes in, that you feel like you're pushing the weight up instead of lifting the weight. So I moved in two acoustic actions here to show you one other thing that acoustic actions have that very entry-level keyboards do not have, and that is something called let-off. When a hammer is thrust towards the string, in this example, if the hammer does not have a free way of not going all the way to the string at the bottom of the keystroke, then because the key would push up against the string and it would just stay there, it has to actually let off a little before so that it will thrust into the string and then come back, and the key will be compressed all the way. Let off, you can do at a very slow pace, and you can see that the hammer will drop back just before it hits the string. And I hope you saw that. So right there, you can see it, bam, it just drops back. This is it's called let off. It is something that our entry-level keyboard cannot produce. So the key then just goes down smoothly all the way to the bottom. There is no let off, no moment of resistance, there's no bump. So this becomes something that's very different for a person who plays on this kind of a keyboard. There is no feeling of weight and no feeling of resistance in the key. There is weight that we're lifting, but no resistance at the key. And grand pianos have the same thing, for example. So if we bring this example in and we watch this hammer and our imaginary string is there, when we push this key down, we'll notice that the hammer drops away right before it hits the string, right? And that too is called let off, so that the hammer won't block up against the string. Again, something that an entry-level keyboard cannot mimic. So in front of me now are two Kawai keyboard actions. And what manufacturers, not just Kawai, but Yamaha and some of the other bigger manufacturers have realized is that keyboards to really feel like an acoustic piano need to have some of the design elements that a real action has. And so these two here show the Grand Feel Compact in a Kawai model, and then also the Grand Piano Feel. And what Kawai has done is, first of all, they've produced a wooden key, so very high quality there, just like a real piano action has wooden keys. These have wooden keys. They also have a balance point, or the pivot point. You can see that right there, and also right over here. That's where the teeter-totter effect works. And you'll notice the weight has been moved to the top of the key, so that much like an acoustic piano action, the weight is now lifted like pushed up and not pulled up from the bottom. These two specific keyboards also possess a few other very specific elements, and they both have the action feel of let off, or the bump as we call it. So we reach the point as we push this up to where there's that moment of resistance, and then it pushes through. So there's a moment of resistance, and then it pushes through. Now, this does not drop back away because this isn't like a string. This doesn't need worry about blocking. This actually needs to make the sensor touch the other sensor so it knows that the key is playing. But the feel is there. And that is what a pianist really wants when they start talking about a high-end keyboard, is that feeling of resistance at the key. The other thing that Kawai has produced is an ivory touch style key. These keys actually help to wick away moisture from your finger. So if you get a little moisture going, which can happen when you're playing, this key top will actually absorb that moisture. So very high end. And these keys, when you play them, feel very much like a real piano. They have the pivot point, as we said, and the weight on top. So the question then is, can this beginning style keyboard work for a piano student? Many teachers have no problem with a student starting on something like this. And in the very, very beginning, I think that, we can say something like this would be acceptable for a while, but not for the long term. This is not going to develop a student's muscles. It's not going to help them understand how to create real sensitivity in the way they play, especially in the dynamic range. This has some ability for dynamics, but not a lot. And it doesn't really create that strength, as we said. We've seen many times students who play on these keyboards that then come into the store and they want to look for a piano. And some of them can't even completely push the keys down because they've spent so much time playing on just a keyboard that has no resistance in it that they are unable to make that work. Now, with some time, they can probably develop those muscles, but this is really just for the very beginning if your budget doesn't allow you to move into a higher end keyboard or into an acoustic piano. These two types of actions are quite good. The keyboards themselves are usually very high quality. They have excellent sounds. That's another video that we'll do about how is a sound reproduced on an electronic keyboard. But these will be much better. They provide the resistance, they have the weight in the right place. The keys are wooden and it has a pivot point. It feels more true to what a piano is. So I hope that answers your questions about whether a keyboard is good for a student. The bottom line is if you can get an acoustic piano for a student that is in good shape, generally that's the best option for a piano student. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to producing another video for you soon.